Canelo Alvarez versus Bud Crawford, Terence Bud Crawford, took place tonight at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, with an attendance of nearly 71,000 to enjoy. It aired on Netflix, which is an important contribution. We'll talk about that in just a second. I'm not even sure where to start, so let's just start with the basic facts of the situation. I cannot believe I am saying this, but I am saying this. He has now unified a third weight class, fully unified. What does unified mean for folks who don't know? It means getting all the belts in that weight class, right? And, well, you can actually unify and get like two, but he's actually undisputed. So you get all of them. So unifying means two, but like undisputed means getting all of them. He is now the undisputed champion. At least has become undisputed in now his third weight class. Crawford defeats Canelo Alvarez via decision via the scores of 116, 112, and then two of them had 115, 113. No fuckery whatsoever. I cannot possibly overstate to you the enormity of this achievement. I know that the odds won't necessarily, the pre-fight odds won't necessarily tell you that, but that is, dude, Bud Crawford is, I don't know if my daughter's ever going to watch boxing. I don't know how that's going to go, but if she does, I can't wait to tell her that I lived through the era of Terence Crawford. I got to see it, and I got to see the Spence fight in person, and I was here obviously watching this one live with all of you. I said when Terence Crawford defeated Errol Spence in July of 2023 that in terms of what I had laid my eyes on, that was the best combat sports performance I'd ever seen. And I've seen some pretty good ones. I saw the reign of John Jones in MMA. We saw what Usyk has done recently at heavyweight. I mean, these are incredible achievers at the highest level of their sport. But I have to tell you, I wonder, and I don't know if I'm ready to declare this now, but I might be. I don't know if I've covered in the course of my career, which has now spent about 20 years, I don't know if I've covered a more talented combat sports athlete than Bud Crawford. I don't know if I have. I really don't. Mayweather was pretty talented. Mayweather moved up many weight classes. Mayweather didn't do this. Pacquiao didn't do this. This is beyond extraordinary. For my MMA fans who are watching, let's try to like contextualize this. Bud unified previously, I believe, at lightweight, so 35. This fight was at 68. I want you to think of an MMA champion, a UFC champion at 135 pounds, who by the time they were 37 could move up to basically the equivalent of welterweight and just basically, it was competitive, but outclass the reigning champion there. I cannot think of a single fighter in the fucking history of that sport who I would even consider to be a reasonable candidate for such an achievement. And that's exactly what Bud Crawford just did. His third weight class that he is now undisputed in. That is fucking insane. And he didn't do it with one up. Like he didn't go, well, he started at 35, but basically 35, then 40, then 47. And then we had one at 54, skipping 60 completely, and then 68, which is what you just saw here today. And he's got all the motherfucking belts doing that. I wasn't even sure if he could beat Spence in 2023 at 47. Look what he just did at 68. Bud Crawford, and this is no exaggeration, is probably the best combat sports athlete of my lifetime and maybe yours as well, irrespective of fucking age. I don't care if you're 24 or 64, he might qualify. He is 1 of 1, 42-0, a talent beyond talent, a gift beyond gift. I don't believe many people are born to do X or meant to do Y, but that fucking guy was meant to do this shit. He is of extraordinary level. You will not see somebody come through like this anytime soon. People gave, because I lived through it, Mayweather his begrudging respect. And certainly Pacquiao had, and he moved up 8 weight classes. He had a lot of respect that he was given as well, but none of them dared like this. None of them could do exactly this level of achievement with this much of a uphill climb to get there, asking for absurd circumstances and shining, because he didn't just beat Canelo tonight. He looked like he was barely in a fight, and he even got a small cut from a head clash, I think midway or halfway or a little bit later in the fight. You would not even be able to tell if he had a tough workout or if he just went 12 fucking rounds with Canelo Alvarez. Bud Crawford is a singular figure in my life in combat sports. And when he argued all those years that he was denied opportunities, in part because he was a bad interview back in the day, that is true. And in part because I'm sure, as good as he is now, was he is exactly good back then? There are some questions about that as well. But there were promoter games that were played, and there were fighters who didn't want to see him. And as a consequence, he got a bit of a late start in terms of his ascension to the top of the boxing firmament. He got a bit of a late start in terms of people recognizing just how good he was. Hello, I am living proof of this as well. We all knew he was good. We all knew he was very good. We didn't exactly know how good he was. This is including before the Spence fight, even after he beat Amir Khan and even after he beat, whoever the fuck. Like, you didn't exactly know how good he really was. You knew he was good. You didn't really know. And then when faced with the two biggest, seemingly, challenges of his career, a rival at 47 in Spence who has never been knocked down, never been defeated, was a pound-for-pound guy, and he fucking wiped the floor with him. Bit of a tougher matchup with Madrimov at 54, but up at 68 against Canelo Alvarez. I do not believe this to be peak Canelo Alvarez, but as we discussed, going up that far, you've never had a fight at 60, and this is your first fight at 68, and you made him look frustrated. His face was much worse than Bud's. Bud was laughing in his face. Bud looks like he went for a fucking long run, not a 12-round bout with Canelo Alvarez, a guy who's a devastating, proven puncher. What he achieved in the course of combat sports tonight will absolutely last the test of time. When they talk about the best to ever do it, who does that include? You're not going to make a list without Bud fucking Crawford on it. It's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. It's not, I'm saying things because I want more people to look at my stream. I am telling you the fucking truth. His fight against Spence literally moved me to fucking tears. And here he is against Canelo Alvarez. And when the first fight was first signed, I was like, oh, yeah, there's no way Bud will lose. But then as the fight got closer, I'm like, well, dude, look what he's trying to do. He's trying to beat this promotional darling when it comes down to the judges' scorecards. It just always seems to go Canelo's way. That's true in the Lara fight. That's true in the Trout fight. That's true in, you can argue, a couple of Triple G fights and some other ones beyond that as well. And then you heard Max Kellerman say it tonight. We're talking about a guy who's got a claim for maybe the best chin in the fucking history of the sport. Certainly in my generation, never been knocked down. I mean, barely even gets wobbled. And dude, Bud Crawford maybe wobbled him a couple times, had him frustrated, bopped his head, demonstratively made him move in a way. I haven't seen anyone do that to Canelo in years. Years I haven't seen that. That was tonight one of the most impressive performances, and I mean this genuinely. Not just the 12 rounds itself, but everything it took to get to the 12 rounds. And then the 12 he turned in is one of the most impressive combat sports performances I've ever seen. And his fight against Spence, I consider that to be number one in my book. And I have seen virtually all of MMA, and I've seen quite a bit of boxing, and including other combat sports as well. That is up there with one of the best things I've ever seen, and will abso-fucking-lutely stand the test of time in boxing. Bud Crawford is peerless in this generation. He is the king. I know Inoue fights in like 4 hours, right? He's going to be fighting Murjan Akhmadaliev. God bless Inoue. I love the monster. You probably love the monster. I love the monster. He's fucking awesome. I don't give a shit what he does to Akhmadaliev. It cannot touch what you just saw today. And he could brutalize him in the first and knock him out. It won't matter because it won't mean the same thing. And God bless Usyk. If Usyk is not number one, then he's got to be number two, right? Because he's doing special things. Who was Usyk saying was going to win this fight? He's like, oh, Crawford. Crawford's the guy. Like, game, recognize, game. That is what that was. Dude, you spend so many nights either going to the fights themselves. If you're a real fight junkie, you spend so many nights going to the fights themselves or sitting at home watching or going to the bar. And sometimes the fights are good and sometimes they're bad. But every once in a while, man, every turn of the screw, every few years, or maybe even not even that, maybe every decade, and sometimes maybe even once every couple of decades, a guy comes around and does something, just takes your breath away a little bit. And the enormity of what he achieved tonight kind of does that. Let's talk about the fight itself. It was competitive. This was not some, pillar to post ass kicking by Bud. That's not what it was. Canelo certainly won, as you saw the scores, 116, 112, and then 115, 113. He was competitive. 8-4, 7-5. He was competitive. And there were certainly rounds where you felt like he was leading. He had some of the better shots. But what Bud did in specifics, let's break them down. Number one, the catch and shoot. Oh my fucking God. The catching and shooting. You don't see a lot of catching and shooting in MMA. You see a little bit. For MMA fans who are watching this, you don't know what that is. Catching and shoot is literally like blocking and catching. You catch the punch and then you roll with it, or you can catch and then come up with the other one. So, there's different names for it, but catch and shoot. Dude, he was catching and shooting the whole... First of all, before we even get to that, he fought it in fucking southpaw. Not even his natural stance. Just, hey, I'm going to fight this fucking guy at 68 in my stance that's not necessarily my natural one. Holy fuck. And I know you can make arguments that like he's even better in certain cases at this stance, but like, to be clear, he is naturally a right-hander and he fought this one at southpaw. And of course there were strategic advantages that came with that. I just want to point that out, right? So first of all, I did it in southpaw. Number one. Number two, the catching and shooting was absolutely critical, both from the same side where he's catching and then those uppercuts. And then beyond that, catch, he would catch and then go to the body, or catch and then the uppercuts. The uppercuts was so huge. He would get in tight with Canelo and allow Canelo to kind of like, drop his weight, lean forward, and then boom, he was catching him with it over and over and over again. And one of the most amazing things is if you look in slow motion, the mechanical efficiency of what Crawford does. He doesn't have a huge windup. There's not a lot of motion on it, but it still fucking sticks every time he drives it through. That was absolutely critical. The catching and the shooting, getting Canelo to open up, catching it, and then waiting for an opportunity to either come around, come under, or come to the other side. He did that over and over and over again in this fight. So fighting out of southpaw, catching and shooting, the footwork. I mean, the guy was on his horse the vast majority of this time, right? Circling one direction and then the other. And even when he was trapped against the ropes this way or in a corner that way, how good was he at hiding just behind the glove? Like, he's got a real keen sense of exactly, is the hand supposed to be here? Is the hand supposed to be here? He's got a very, very keen sense of exactly where that hand was supposed to be, catching with it and then rolling back out to center, right? So the footwork, Canelo had to go find him, and that wasn't doing him a lot of good. And then you're catching and you're shooting and you're going. So the footwork, the stance, the catching and the shooting, and then more to that, dude, he would play with rhythm constantly. So partly what he would do is I think with the movement, he would pull Canelo into certain sides. I think that was part of it. But the other interesting component to me watching this fight was, in addition to like pulling him, he would go touch, and then he would switch the tempo. So he's going on a singular tempo with a literal light touch, but then he'll go touch, bang, hard to the body, touch, bang, hook upstairs, touch, whatever. Like playing with tempo, playing with how much power he's using in any of these individual circumstances. How many times did he would get Canelo to open up and come in, and he would catch him with a jab coming in? I mean, this happened over and over. Dude, his fucking Bud Crawford's vision, woo, like what he can see and what he can anticipate. There was one moment where he was caught in the corner and you see him up like this and you can see his eyes fucking wide open. Canelo is right on top of him, raining down punishment, or trying to anyway, rain down punishment. And he's fucking hitting nothing. Or he's just, it's hitting off, bouncing off the gloves of Crawford. Crawford's fucking vision is absurd. He was able to get Canelo to open up. When he needed to. He was able to get Canelo to shell up when he needed to, which is part of that, like touch hard, touch hard, right? But that's all kind of part of it. On his bike when he needed to be, pulled him into circumstances when he needed to be. Dude, he was underhooking and turning Canelo into into the ropes. There was conversation about what did it mean for Crawford to be at 68? Like, how was his body going to adjust? My read is that I don't think his power was necessarily overwhelming for Canelo. It was landing. Hello, he won the fucking fight. I did not see it as like overwhelming in that sense. However, what I did see was he was able to absorb Canelo's damage. No problem. And a part of that was because his defense was so stout. But even when some shots got through, dude, did it change? How many times did Canelo do something where he landed in such a way that you could tell Crawford had to adjust as a consequence? How many times did he get hit to the body and you could tell Crawford's like, oh, he doesn't like that. He's going to make some kind of adjustment so that doesn't happen anymore. Oh, whenever he circles that direction, Canelo's killing him for it. So he's just going to go there. You didn't ever see that. He didn't seem like he ever had to adjust his strategy based on the threat of Canelo's power. At 60 fucking 8. I mean, I can't call it a flawless victory because Canelo won at least 4 rounds, right? I think that's very fair. 4 rounds is fair. But I feel like Bud almost, I can't say he pitched a shutout because that's not real, but Bud was the superior pure boxer. And the questions of 68 were like, were there some limits on Bud's game? Yes. Yes, the punching power, I think, was limited. But he still was able to, it was still good enough. He was still able to pop Canelo. Dude, if anybody had to make adjustments based off of what one guy was doing, it was Canelo. Canelo was the one who had to make the adjustments, not Bud. They both did over the course of the bout, but I'm saying who looked like they had to change what they were doing so that they can have a greater effect because it wasn't working. Or they were threatened in some kind of way. It was fucking Canelo. Canelo had some good punches in this fight. I thought early on that left hook to the body, which he got away from in the middle parts of the fight, got back to it a little bit at the end. But again, he was catching and shooting was a big part of why that went away. Bud was like, bop, catching him for it. Several times he hit him with that. Canelo had a decent jab at times. That right hand was able to catch Bud cleanly a couple of times, but not really. Bud's face looked normal, fine. You would never have known he went 12 rounds. Remarkable beyond words, man. Remarkable. That is so, I fucking hope and pray that everyone who is I don't know what the casuals are going to say. I really don't. But for the real fight fans, the ones who are probably watching the stream, I hope you appreciate what you just took a look at. Daring to be great. Daring to do what people just basically, people have unified, or I should say, gone undisputed in 3 weight classes before, but it's exceedingly rare, right? And to go up such a fucking jump. And let's go over one more thing if we can here for just a moment. One of the things that Bud has been trying to argue is that the boxing establishment has overlooked him. He was never their darling. He was never the guy that they picked. He was never the one that they chose ahead of time and was like, we're going to anoint you as our figure. He was never that guy, you know. That was not him. And beating Spence got him a pretty far way in terms of like changing attitudes, but Canelo was the big one because Canelo was that guy. Now, Canelo, of course, earned everything he's gotten too. That's not the point. But like what I'm trying to say is Canelo was the promotional darling. Hello, the face of boxing. You know what I mean? And not just the face of boxing in this country, the face of boxing in another country. Dude, this motherfucker was the face of boxing worldwide, but in particular in North America, right? And something of a promotional darling, and always the A side, and this, that, and the other. And that was not Crawford's journey, man. That was not Crawford's, he was fighting the Ricky Burns of the world. That was not his fucking trajectory. And in beating Canelo tonight, what Crawford was trying to say is that, like, I could not, through, natural circumstances, be boxing's darling, be their chosen son. So here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to pull the balaclava down and I'm going to take that motherfucker by force. And that's what he did on Netflix against the face of boxing, the biggest star in this market, as well as Mexico and many others, I'm sure. And just, again, against unenviable circumstances, ridiculous chin, judges always go in his favor, so many weight classes, I mean, you name it. And then just kind of cleanly beat him. A guy who never let the circumstances of the world dictate his position. He fucking made the world bow to him by force. Just took it by force. Bro, I've watched more fights than almost anybody you know. I have watched fights to a degree that is probably unhealthy. You know what I mean? Like, this is all I've done for decades, and I do it every fucking day. I cannot recall many things I've seen like this. How many special guys there are like this. If I may say a word about Canelo, what my official prediction was that I was like, I just thought Bud was trying to climb too high of a mountain, but then I said explicitly on Friday's MK, I was like, I think it's just too many favors in Canelo's side, but I really hope Bud wins. And the reason why I said that is because if Canelo stops his career after he unifies, I should say he goes undisputed, essentially the first time at 68 when he beat Caleb Plant. I think that was November or October of 2021. I was there for that fight. It was on Showtime. If he stops right there, automatic Hall of Fame. And he'll go to the Hall of Fame no matter what, obviously. Like, he's a Hall of Famer. And I felt like everything up to that point in his career was pretty goddamn commendable. Did he get lucky a couple times? Probably. But, he, in general, I had a lot of admiration for the kind of fighter that he was and the kind of game that he had and, what he represented in the sport. And then, just so many bullshit ass fights he took after that really left a sour taste in my mouth. And I understand that, like, he's trying to cash in on, listen, he's done a lot. That's true. He's a Hall of Famer eventually, no question in my mind. But, that Berlanga fight was bullshit. It was a bullshit ass fight he never should have took. And frankly, the Munguia fight was a bullshit fight he never took. And the fact that he ducked David Benavidez really rubbed me as a fight fan the wrong way. It's like, it's very easy for me to say, hey, go risk your health for this guy, but you got the belts, motherfucker. Either do something with him or don't. And he just wanted to keep them, and the sanctioning bodies let him keep those belts without defending against David Benavidez. And dude, I don't think he got sharper in that time. I think he came into this fight as prepared as he could be. He looked to have good conditioning. He looked amazing on the scales. And, I think in general, he didn't fall off around 7 to 12 as much as I thought he could or was possible. But I thought that this last chapter of Canelo's career was, and I'm not going to mince words, I thought it was disgraceful. To see what he did here, turn it into a commendable performance, but to see the game anoint the guy who never got the handouts, who never was never the promotional darling, who was, and partly by his own fault because he was beefing with everyone at the time, including Bob Arum. But, you know, was just never that guy. Was never that, you know, let's give this guy the push. To see him at this stage just take it by force against a guy who, to me, has been kind of coasting for a few years. I got to tell you, it doesn't make me feel bad. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and dance on Canelo's grave, but it doesn't make me feel at all. A little bit of justice, if I'm being honest. A little bit of karmic justice in there. He dodged David Benavidez like a motherfucker. And that, you know, and I understand, like, he knocked down John Ryder, what, like 2-3 times in whatever that fight was in Guadalajara. But, you know, dude, that fight against Berlanga was disgraceful. It was disgraceful. And I think, you know, PBC put it on because they need money and Canelo can sell even fighting the Berlangas of the world. But that fight was disgraceful. It was disgraceful for him to take it. It was really, I felt like it was a slap in the face to fans. I suppose if you're a big time Canelo fan, you're like, whatever. We just want to see him go, and you just want to see the great white shark just eat prey or whatever. But I felt it was like, dude, somebody needs to do something to like make boxing feel special. And that wasn't it. He was just kind of coasting on the fame and the adulation and the earnings he had already achieved. And that's great. He should have, like, he did amazing. But at some point that comes to a close. It's like, if you're still going to have the belts, you got to do something with him. And he just abdicated that responsibilities, and the sanctioning bodies fucking let him. It's good that Bud Crawford won. It is good. It's actually good for boxing that Bud Crawford won. There's a little bit of justice in that. I don't know if Canelo will ever take the lesson that way. I don't know if any of his fans will take that way. I don't even know if you will take it that way. But I took it that way. I felt that it was shitty. I thought it was shitty of him to spend the last however many years dodging David Benavidez with everything in his fiber of his being, and to see Crawford go out there and, you know, not put a beating on him. That's not what happened. But to just outslick him, outbox him. Just, dude, Bud Crawford was technically a better pure boxer tonight in every way. He just was. He was better defensively and he was better offensively. He had a better strategy. He had better execution. He had better movement. He was better, comprehensively better. And Bud earned it. And in his own kind of perverse way, Canelo earned it too. Sorry. I feel like there should be shame for ducking like that. I do. If you're going to be a prize fighter, and that's one thing, and you're going to hold on to the belts, you have a responsibility. Let go of the belts. You can go fight whoever the fuck you want. I really don't care. I mean, you know, you get disappointed, but like, you're not holding anything hostage, you know. But you hold the belts. It's the same thing I said with John Jones, like just holding the belt hostage and then laughing at everyone's face. And he went and apologized to Dana because he knew he fucked up. Now Canelo's in a different space. He's already achieved, you know, a bunch, and he still stayed active. You know, he wasn't as bad, but anyway, you get the idea. This was massive karmic justice, perhaps in two directions simultaneously. You know, do you have an appetite for a rematch? I wouldn't say no. I could see a reason to do a rematch. I don't know if they will. Who the hell? I can't. I don't know if Turkey's saying anything. I don't know if Dana's saying anything. I don't know who's saying what. Hold on just a second here. I got like a million text messages. Hold on. What? Okay. No, sorry. Anyway. Can we talk about that broadcast? So first of all, let me say this. I thought Max Kellerman and Andre Ward and John Anik, for the first time doing this together, were actually pretty good. I didn't love everything about it, but I liked a lot. I know some boxing fans, they feel like they associate John Anik too much with UFC. I leave that to them. You know, I know John Anik. I like him a lot. I don't feel that way, but to each his own. I understand that perspective. But I did think that they worked well together, from my opinion. In my opinion, for whatever that is worth, I thought they worked well together. I thought that the broadcast itself was visually stunning. Stunning. Beautiful broadcast. I fucking looked at it. It looked like it was every frame a painting. I mean, it was just so good. The arena looked good. The visual production elements looked good. The ring apron with the big lights and everything, it all looked beautiful. I loved every part of it. Like, that was so great, you know? I love the pomp and circumstance. I love that they put that in Allegiant. That should have been in Allegiant. That should not have been in T-Mobile. That was fantastic. The pacing fucking killed me. It killed me. It killed me. It absolutely killed me. I just, dude, they did not start the main event until 12:30. And arguably almost I think closer to 1. I mean, you know, we're getting between 3.5, 4 hours before your main event starts. This is not a great idea. This is not a great idea. You know, you just can't be doing shit like that. And they were telling media that the start time, the ring walks were going to be at 11 p.m. East Coast time. Like, is that what we got? That wasn't what we got. That was fucking a nightmare. Like, please don't do that shit again. It's clear that they know how to make a show, and it's clear that they know what a show should look like. They nailed it. But probably could have been a few lesser production elements. But more importantly, if the fights are going to take that long and you can't rely on them, just have 3. And if you have to have a post limb or something, then have a post limb. But don't. We can't be waiting 4 hours for the main event. Like, it's just that seems to me a non-starter. And I honestly feel like, as someone who pays their ticket or just watching online, I know this was free on Netflix or whatever, free. You know what I mean. That's not that big a deal, but still, like, it's a big ask for people. Like, this was supposed to be over quite some time ago. So, I give the show itself, B plus A minus, probably closer to A minus. But the historical significance of what you saw tonight will absolutely stand the test of time. You know, it will stand the test of time. I saw a bunch of Floyd's fights. I don't feel any way about any of Floyd's fights like I feel about Bud and Spence and Canelo. Bud versus Madrimov is obviously quite forgettable, or Bud versus, as I mentioned, Ricky Burns or fucking even Gamboa, those won't stand the test of time. This one will. And the Spence one will. I don't know if I feel about that. I mean, I guess you could say, well, that's not true. There's a couple of Floyd fights that are like that, right? But you get my point. Like, most of those were Pretty Boy Floyd, not Money Floyd. You know what I mean? There's a difference.